Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to Touching You Talk Show. I am Elder Sheila, and I have a very special guest in the person of Sister Rochelle Kent. How are you today, ma'am?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for asking. How are you today?
I'm doing well. So I always ask my guests, how long have we known each other?
Let's see. I joined Dayspring. I want to say it was May or April of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And you and some of the other elders were there when actually one of my sons had a meltdown, and y'all were very loving and caring. And I said, okay, well, I need to see what's going on over here at Dayspring.
I don't even remember that. No, I don't even remember that.
Y'all were wonderful. Were wonderful. Y'all just swooped in. I think it's just second nature for you. So that's why it's not even in your memory.
Well, to God be the glory. Well, what we are here for today, everyone, as you listen in, this young lady right here, I just call her a super mom. She's a super mom. How many children do you have?
Four boys.
She has four boys, and I have two, and I don't know, the two is way more than enough, and she's got four. But she has two children that have special needs, right?
Correct.
So
Yes.
she has two children that have special needs, and I wanted to bring her on so we could encourage, some of the other mothers who may have children with special needs. She has done a phenomenal job with these young men. It is just amazing how well mannered they are. They are such sweeties, and that baby, the baby one, what's his name?
Christian.
Christian. He has to get his hug.
He does.
He has to get his hug. The others, I have to make him hug me, but
Yes,
he has to get his hug.
he
She,
does.
and I was just so impressed with, how you have parented your children and how they were so well mannered. So I wanted to come on. I wanted us to be an encouragement and to help maybe some other mothers. So tell me, where are you from, first of all?
I am a Texas woman through and through. I was born in Fort Worth, but I was raised and still live in beautiful Irving, Texas. Graduated from MacArthur High School, class of '02. So I'm just a Texas girl all the way through, but the majority of my family is actually in Louisville, Kentucky. That's where
Okay.
the majority of
All
my
right. All right. All right. Well, that's great. So tell me about your background. Are you a teacher or?
So it's funny that you say that. A lot of people think that I am. I attempted to work in education, found out that that was not the ministry for me. Public education was not, but I still love working with children. I've always had a love for it. So in my free time, I read journals and about autism, special needs. I get newsletters from the TEA, and I just consume so much educational information. And I also homeschool my children, so I guess technically I am a teacher. Um, Technically, I don't have the credentials, and I would never take away anything from those that have it because they have my heart, especially in public school. But yeah, I'm not officially a teacher, not yet. We'll see what God has planned.
So I have some specific questions that I wanted to ask, but I want to ask, what has been your experience at some other churches with your children? Have you had issues, or has it been really good for you? I had one guest who said that his son, who was special needs, he was wheelchair bound, and he was a person that was audible most all of the time, and whenever they would go to a church, people would just swoop their child into another room and wouldn't allow them to participate in the main sanctuary. So tell me, what has been your experience prior to Dayspring?
Um, I am very blessed that the churches that I went to have always been very supportive. The church that I went to before Dayspring was called Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church in Dallas under the direction of Pastor Johnny Bradley. Um, and we even started a sensory room, and we had special programs during Autism Awareness Month. My sons were even in the commercial for it. So they've always been the churches that I've been to have been very welcoming. But I do know not all churches are like that, especially predominantly Black churches, as we're just now learning to really embrace, you know, not just autism, but all of our special needs children in those spaces.
Wow. Well, that's good. I'm glad that you have not had that experience as my prior guest. So I tell you what, let's go ahead and ask some of the questions that we had talked about previously. So
Okay.
can you share a little bit about your children and their special needs?
Okay. My 11-year-old, who is my second oldest, he does have a diagnosis, medical diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. He also has a medical diagnosis for intellectual disability and sensory processing disorder. Um, uh, in the past, intellectual disability, we used to call it mental retardation, but that's not really a phrase that's used anymore. And then his sensory processing, that's where you will see that he wears headphones when we go into certain places. It's not really so much the sound, but sometimes like he can pick up radio frequencies, like he can hear that. So, like, when we go into churches, if their speakers are just slightly off, he hears that high pitched noise that most people aren't hearing, and it's very painful for him. And then my 9-year old, he also has autism spectrum disorder, but there's also a personality disorder and profound ADHD. So, which has the tendency to where uh, we all have fight or flight. Well, his is fight, flight, and freeze, and then fight again. So it's being it can be a bit much in certain situations for him.
Okay, all right. So when did you first learn about your child's diagnosis and how did you feel at that time?
Uh, I started noticing something about when my son was probably about 3 years old. And my ex-husband and I, when we got married, we were like, we're gonna have kids, and we had them like 18 months apart, boom, boom, boom. And so when I started noticing that my Ethan, my 11-year-old now, when he was 3, when I started noticing that there was like a delay in speech, and he seemed to always be crying and everything like that, we went to a pediatrician. She said, oh, he's probably just regressing because there's a new baby, you know. But I didn't get him actually diagnosed until he was about 6 years old. And that was actually his first non medical diagnosis, because some people don't know. You can take your child to any public school and have them screened for special needs services. And that's what we did. And the day that they came back and they were like, yeah, it's autism. We think he has a low IQ. We don't think he's ever going to speak. He'll always need supports. Oh, I bawled. I cried, because you never think that you're going to have a child that needs those kind of supports, you know. And then once my now 9-year old, he didn't get diagnosed until much later, till he was about 7. When I thought, oh, I know autism now, right? Because I already been through it. Well, his autism presented completely differently. He never had the problem of not speaking. He talks all the time. I couldn't get him to stop talking, but it was the things he would talk about. And so then we went and got that diagnosis. And At that time, I wasn't so much scared. I think that was more of a, okay, roll up your sleeves. We're going to fight this head on. And as any information I get, I'm just going to give out to everybody else that I can think of because it's hard to find information,
I
so.
bet. I bet. So, does the medical community immediately give them medication?
No. Okay. So the wild thing is that a lot of people don't know is that m- most pediatricians, I would say the majority of them, uh, they don't actually diagnose your child with autism. They're not the ones that will diagnose your child. Uh, they will do a screener where you have to fill out all this information about from the moment they were born until then, and then they will refer you to a psychiatrist. And a lot of times they try to delay the medication. They will try to delay the medication. The psychiatrist will. Now the pediatricians, once you get those diagnoses, they're like, "Oh, is it ADHD? Well, do you want to try this? Do you want to try this?" And unfortunately, for us at this time, medication has not worked well for us. So we've tried other therapies
Okay. All
instead.
right. Well, that's good. So, how has your understanding of their condition evolved over time?
Oh, a lot. I'll say like an example is when my 11-year-old first went to his first form of therapy. It's called ABA therapy, applied behavior analysis. He was going for 40 hours a week, like it was a job. And the first week he was there, they come out and they bring him to me and they're like, okay, mom, so we're not going to tell him no anymore. And I don't know about you, but as a black mom to black boys, what you mean we're not going to tell him no? And oh, that's the end. And so there was a lot of cultural things that I was dealing with, and I leave it up to God all the time, and I thank God for it because that's when all of a sudden, maybe about 2 weeks later, when I was talking about I'm gonna pull him out because y'all gonna tell my baby no, and he gonna deal with it. Uh, there was a black behavior therapist who came out and spoke to me, and she was like, "Okay, let me explain to you when we say we're not telling him no. What we're saying is this is not available. You do not have access." Now, I know a lot of people are like, "Well, why would you say that to a 7-year old? That's a lot of words." But he understood it and he saw red stop signs on doors when it wasn't available and a green go sign when it was available. And it clicked in his head. And then I was like, oh, that's what you mean. It's not that you're not telling him no, it's just reframing it. And so the way that taught me was that, oh, okay, with autism and really any kind of teaching children, we have to look at, are we willing to change how we're communicating and how we're processing things so that it benefits them in the long run, you know?
Oh,
So, but that was a hard one. The not saying no was a hard one. That was hard.
so tell me, what does a typical day look like for you and your children?
Um, it's never a dull moment. There are times y'all have no idea the struggle, not just from the house to the church, but from that parking lot to that front door. It's never a dull moment. With Ethan, my 11-year-old, he is whatever he went to sleep thinking about, that's the first thing he's going to ask a question about in the morning. So if it's on the calendar, we're going to the library on Friday. Thursday night, he's like, Mom, we go to the library tomorrow. Yes, we do, Ethan. As soon as he wakes up, good morning, Mommy. We go to the library today. So there's that. And then with Isaiah, my 9-year-old, uh, his sense of reality is so all over the place, especially with his ADHD and his personality disorder, how it presents itself. I never know who I'm waking up to. He might have a new accent. He might decide that he's putting on costumes that day. So it's never It's never a dull moment. And then for my other two boys, they just kind of go. They're very much go with the flow. They just
That's what
go.
I was going to ask. How do they all act together? Do they fight?
Oh, all the time. Non-stop. It's WWE in here. Non-stop fighting. I come from a family of boxers. My grandfather was a boxer. From the birthplace of Muhammad Ali. My kids like to swing on each other every now and then. But they're mouthy, kind of like their mom. So they like to tell each other off as well. They you guys don't see that at church because they know how to behave in public.
That
but
is
but
that's
yeah,
so
they
good.
they they go they go off. They go off on each other all the time. But my oldest, my 19-year-old, soon to be 20, he is definitely kind of like the person that grounds them, that kind of keeps them in their place. But then my youngest, Christian, he's our major general. He's the one that'll tell everybody if Ethan starts making noises, guys, he's stimming. Do you know what stimming is? And he's 7. And so he's explaining autism to people,
That's
and
amazing.
yeah, and Isaiah's the bodyguard. No one's going to say anything about his brothers.
Okay.
What did you say? Isaiah's ready to go.
Okay. He ready. Don't start with nothing. It won't be nothing.
Look, and it's like, okay, Isaiah, he was just asking what your brother's name was. Calm down. It's okay. He's like, okay, I'm just making sure, you know. So, and then Ethan is the peacemaker. Ethan is he's pretty much like, hey, we all just need to be nice. Let's be nice so we can go get Whataburger. That's all
Oh,
Ethan is about. So,
oh, you tell Ethan we going to Whataburger because that is one of my absolute favorite places is Whataburger.
oh goodness, that now you got a best friend for life.
So, what are some of the biggest challenges you face as a mother of a special needs child?
Um, I would say the biggest challenge is giving myself grace, giving myself the ability to not always have the answers, and to, just like my children who don't have profound or diagnosed special needs, um, I've made mistakes with them in parenting, and it's okay for me to make mistakes with them too, you know? And so I think that's probably the hardest. And then the second hardest thing is just trusting people to be around my kids. I
Oh, that
I'm
part.
I'm pretty much like, no, no. I think maybe 3 Sundays ago was the first time Ethan went to Sunday school with a class that was all the boys, and and it was all the boys that were like 11 and older, and I almost had a panic attack. I was like, who's in there with him? What's going on? The pastor had to come and say, it's okay. It's going to be all right. I was like, are you sure? Do they understand? So, but he had a great time and he did great. So,
That is so good. All right. So, how do you balance caregiving with other aspects of your life, like work, relationships, personal time? Do you have any personal time?
personal time, what's that? Picture it. Italy, 19. No, let's see. When did I do have some personal time. I'm very grateful. Even though my marriage didn't quote unquote work out. Um, my boys, their father is there for them. My oldest son, he's there. My parents, were in a multi-generational household. So I mean, even if I need to go to the grocery store, if I need to go get my nails done, um, sometimes, there's networking events. I've decided that the women's conference at Dayspring is my Mother's Day gift to myself every year from now on. So I go to that and I make sure everybody puts that on the calendar. Hey, I'm gone at a hotel, even though it's literally in the city that I live in and I could drive there. Nope. I'll be at the hotel that those 3 days, and I'll see y'all later. So it's something that I have to be intentional about. And it wasn't something that I really did a lot for myself until probably about 2 years ago, was when I started saying, I have to be something outside of mom all the time because they're going to get older. And so I still have to be Rochelle at the end of the day.
So did you feel guilty about leaving them with?
Oh, for sure. At first, I did. At first I did. And then I got to a point to where people would be like, "Where's your kids?" I'd be like, "What kids?" you know. So it's very much it's a process. It is a process because I feel like for parents of autistic children and special needs children, the way that Satan really comes at us is to try to make us blame ourselves for every aspect of what life is in this new normal, right? And so it's like, oh well, it's the reason why your child has autism is because you drank too much soy milk. The reason why your child has autism is because you don't have enough faith to pray the autism away. And then it'll be something like, well, really, do you really think you should be out eating dinner by yourself right now? There's food at the house. You could really just make yourself a sandwich. you know I really had to get to a place where it was like, God wants me to have joy, unspeakable joy. And God wants me to live an abundant life, and I can do that and still care for my kids. And that's why I tried to find that balance. I tried to find that balance.
That is so good. So what kind of support system do you have, and how has it helped you?
Oh, definitely. Of course, I spoke of my family. My family is amazing to me. My mom is that sounding board that I have. My mom is not the woman that's going to let you get down on yourself. So if I start saying, "Oh, I'm a bad mom," really, Rochelle? That's that's what we're doing right now. We're just going to talk. Oh, okay. Well, I how many times I got to tell you, you're a good mom. It, you know what you're doing. And that's the and my family are just really strong like that. Even my grandmother in Louisville, Kentucky, she's always praying for us. We do a family Sunday school, and for the longest time, my grandmother named out each one of my children by name on that prayer list. Everybody else got in their family. I got Rochelle and Isaiah and Ethan and Christian and Monroe. And it was like, oh, okay. So, and then I've been very blessed to have some amazing friends. I had one friend, Christina Maynard. Unfortunately, she passed away of colon cancer. But when my son first got his diagnosis of autism, she was a special education aide. She sent me just printouts, nonstop printouts of things to do at home while I was waiting to get him approved for therapies. And she's the reason why I thought I could do education. Christina had a lot more patience than I did. A lot more patience. And then I have another friend, Jessica, and that is my road dog, my prayer partner. She's the person I talk to her almost every day. Whenever I crash out on God and I'm like, God, what are we doing? Give me answers. Jessica's like, okay, did you get that out of your system? All right. So this is what we're going to do. And she sent me a calendar invite that the whole month of April at 9 a.m. we're going to pray for your purpose and your direction. And that's what we're going to do until God answers and gives you your, like,
Wow.
so it's just, and there's just so many that I could just name off, but I'm abundantly blessed because I know a lot of people don't have that. And so yeah, my support system is a strong one. Do I use them all the time? No, because I'm a prideful person and I'm working on that. It's called growth. I'm working on it. But yeah, I'm very blessed to have the people in my life that are there for me, and especially my Dayspring family. I mean, wow, yeah, y'all are great too.
Amen. I see Mimi on the line. She's one of those people that love everybody's children.
Listen, Miss Mimi, she's another one that she's real quick to be like, okay, so, but 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 why are we worried about it? But why are we worried about it? Because there's been times where I was like, well, I don't want people to think that I'm trying to cater to my children. Why are you worried about that? No one's worried about that. So it's something that I just, I love the directness. I love the love. I love the tough love. I love it.
That's good. So, are there any resources, like any therapies, excuse me, any schools, any organizations that have been especially helpful for you that may be helpful for someone else?
Um, yeah, I would say definitely if you're at the beginning and you have any reason to think that maybe your child has some special needs, right? And they need accommodations. Don't be afraid to ask your school, your local public school, even if they're not in public school, if you homeschool, private school, ask them to screen your child. Your tax dollars pay for that. So I would say, first of all, use that for sure, right? And then I would definitely say there's a group on Facebook called Awesome Moms. It's AU Some Moms. Um, they are a North Texas group, and it's not just for autistic mothers that are of autistic children, but there's so many resources in there. If you need an advocate to go to a IEP meeting with you, if you're looking for a new pediatrician, I found the dentist that takes care of my children who has the capability to handle special needs children all the way up to the age of 18. you know um, if those are things that you need, check that out. And then there's another group called uh, Texas Parent to Parent. And what I love about them is that they have a lot of, they have weekly webinars, and they even have them in Spanish as well. And it's a great way for you to learn about what legally, what legal rights your child has, and uh, not just in school, but with social security offices and all these other things. So um, there's just a lot out there. I'm not a big fan of social media. Actually, I only activated my social media again just to do this interview. Um, um, but it is one of those things that if you use it properly, you can really just dig deep in. Oh, and then uh, uh, the Black Autism Association as well.
Okay, Rosalind had a recommendation. She
Oh,
said Dayspring.
and Dayspring, of course, come to Dayspring. The youth department and the children's department will always be there for you. We have Bible study, we have Wednesday night Bible study, we have Sunday school at 9:45. Sometimes it goes a little bit later because 8 o'clock service just gets too good to them, and they don't know how to shut it down. But there's always something, and I have yet to run into anybody that has told me no, my child cannot participate because they have a special needs. I have yet to see that happen at Dayspring. And if it has happened, come talk to me and we'll go talk to folk, because I'm fine. I'm at an age now where I'm like, okay, let's
It's
go
all
talk.
good for us. As a matter of fact, when your baby start dancing, guess what? I get up and dance with him.
They those boys. Those
I just love it. They make it just so beautiful. I mean, we just get so excited to see, how they love being at church. Can you tell that testimony that you told me about your child when he went to the doctor? and what he
Oh,
told his doctor.
so one thing about what people don't, something that people don't really think about when someone has profound autism or other medical needs is that it's hard for you to know what's really going on with their body because of how they process sensory. So we were going to cardiologist, sorry, a cardiologist for a screening. And so the cardiologist is putting all these things on his chest and is listening to his heart with the stethoscope. And Isaiah says, "Do you hear that?" And so me and the doctor are both sitting there like, "Is there something going on that we should be hearing?" And and she's like, "Yeah, it's your heart." And he goes, "No, do you hear what's inside of it?" And he goes, "That's Jesus. He takes away my anger and my frustrations." And to let you know, that is an ongoing prayer that we have for Isaiah because he has lots of angers and frustrations. And you may see me at church sometimes when he's about to rev up. I'll take him to the side. I need you to pray about it. Pray about that Jesus in your heart. But that's definitely it. The boys are learning, and if I could give any advice to anybody, it's the same advice that Pastor gave to me. They're getting it. They're getting it. You just have to bring them to it to get it. But they're getting it. Even if you think that they're nonverbal, pre-verbal, they're in a wheelchair, they're not paying attention. Bring them. They're getting it. They're getting it, and it's going to show up in the most amazing ways.
I'm telling you, that just blesses me. That just blesses me. All I mean, I can just cry right now. I guess I won't cry on the interview. So, so what do you wish more people understood about parenting a child with special needs?
Um, that just because your child has special needs doesn't mean that they can't. A lot of times, um, uh, I call it the day after never. And the day after never is usually the day after you get your diagnosis. And the diagnosis, they'll tell you all the things that your child is never, ever, ever going to do, right? No matter what it is. And I tell parents that although those doctors are the professionals, you're the expert of your child, right? So I'm not saying that you don't heed what these professionals are telling you, right? But don't just give up. Don't just throw in the towel, don't just go, oh, well, they said that they're never going to speak. Well, they may never speak, but that doesn't mean they're never going to communicate to you, right? Um, they say that they'll never be able to live on their own. Well, what does that look like? Does that mean that maybe they just live, they do kind of sort of live on their own, but it's like in a converted apartment next to your house. You know what I'm saying? That so just don't just don't believe that in all of the can'ts that are going to come your way.
Oh man, that is so good. So how have you navigated advocating for your child's needs in education, healthcare, or social settings? How have you navigated advocating for your child's needs?
Um, I had to toughen up because I'm definitely a people pleaser. I don't like people. Well, I used to be. I did not like people telling me no. I didn't like people frowning at me. I didn't like people feeling like I was a bother. And now I'm like, no, I'm a bother for my kids. I'm a bother. I'm a problem. This school is going to see my face. I don't care if you roll your eyes every time you see Miss Kent coming, and I'm here, and I have questions, and I don't care that you only got 30 minutes for this meeting. Okay, do we need to reschedule? Because I got questions, and we're not going to rush off. So navigating that was just having to toughen up because my whole entire job is to advocate for my children and to also teach them to advocate for themselves. And the thing that I found with autistic children is that they learn from example. So I have to show them. I can't just do it all the time. I have to show them and give them the words to advocate for themselves, to ask for what they need if they can, in the best way that they can. But yeah, I'm in this thing until the wheels fall off. So yeah, I'm very big about uh, fighting for my children, and by doing that, the net just went wide, and I end up fighting for a whole bunch of other kids too.
That is so good. We have a comment. She said, Ethan won't be living on his own. He will be living with his wife. He
So
is
that's
so
my
good
mother.
looking too.
That,
He is
that's
so
my
handsome too. It's gonna happen. Yeah,
Yeah. So that's my mother. That's my mother.
he's handsome. Yes, he is.
Yes,
But
my
he's
my
only
mom
gonna
is
have a while.
convinced that she is going to marry him off.
Okay, all right.
Um,
I believe
yeah.
that. I do.
Hey, okay. If that's all right.
So, okay, so we talked about you did find a supportive community of parents and those that have impacted you in your journey. Is there, like this one person maybe that inspired you along the way?
Um, really, I would say okay. So there's two people. I already spoke about Christina. I try
Mhm.
not to talk about her a lot because I'll start crying because she's amazing. She was just an amazing person. You know, they don't make people like her anymore. And so, but another person, and I don't know if I've actually said this out loud enough, but my cousin Tiffany, um, she, the way that she um, was very active in the early years of um, for one of her grandchildren, and she was a tiger mom, and she was like, my grandbaby can do, and he will do. Oh, he has autism. Okay, that's great, and he's going to do this as well. He's going to do this with the autism, and so that really helped me reframe the ideal of um, I don't really say that my kids have autism. I say that they're children living with autism because it helps me remember the first thing is the first thing, that they're children first. And this autism is just over here. You know
Mm.
what I'm saying? So that's how I reframe how I look at children living with disabilities. They're children and they're living, but this disability is the last thing. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So I have to look at all children as if they're just children living. So they all got to learn and they all need to be loved. And um, a phrase that you hear a lot in the community is assume competence. And so until you prove me otherwise, I'm assuming that you're capable and that
Okay.
you can. So,
I
yeah.
love it. So, what changes would you like to see in society to better support special needs families?
Um, I think we have to get to a place, and it's going to take a while. Right now, I think we have kind of like a generational clash on when it comes to special needs and accommodations and modifications and things like that because you have certain people of a certain generation, I'm not going to say which one, but an older generation that feels like back in the day we didn't have all these special needs kids. What's wrong with y'all? And y'all making them all soft. And there's nothing wrong with these children that are good, a good little tap on the behind not gonna fix. They just need more discipline. And then on the other hand, we have some that I think because we have an overload of information, we have people that aren't looking for the professional diagnosis and they're self diagnosing, which leads to self medicating, which leads to more problems. So I think one, we just have to come together and realize okay, it doesn't really matter why we have so many kids with special needs now. How do we best serve them? Right. And then I think the other thing that I wish that we could do is just allow these special needs kids to grow up to be special needs young adults and let them have a voice. Let let's listen to them as best as we can and modify how we communicate. All of them aren't going to speak verbally, but some of them might speak through assistant technology, right? where they're talking through a computer or an iPad, or they write it out, or even if they're just pointing and making noises. We have to get to where we're willing to hear them so that we can best serve them, because there might be things that I think is best for my child, but that's not really what he needs, you
Right.
know so
Right. And I think back in the day, um, they say, well, if they're saying, well, it's more now. I think back in the day it was just hidden. I mean, people just
yeah,
didn't come out. People just didn't, you know,
yeah. And there was a catch-all, you know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, if some people have their way, we may go back to that, where those children that have the more profound disabilities are pushed away into a classroom on the backside of the school. Well, if the principals don't see them and the students don't see them, then you can say they never existed, right?
right.
But they've been underneath your nose in plain sight. But they don't do PE with you. They don't do arts with you. They don't, we're separating them, just another form of segregation. And it's sad. So we have to fight. We have to fight for our kids.
That's beautiful. All right. So, what keeps you motivated and strong during these tough times?
Uh, Really, honestly, a lot of prayer. And then I'm very intentional about bringing joy into my life. I'm very intentional about that. So either whether that's going to a comedy show or watching something on TV that makes me laugh, or sitting down with my boys and making art, or just making loud music. We are a very loud family. I don't think people realize how loud we are, because y'all don't see that, but we are a very loud family that loves music. And so, yeah, I that's just really kind of how I just kind of handle all of that, is just to just find the joy, because that's what God wants me to have, is joy and peace. And that's what I'm constantly seeking and asking him to add to my life, add to my kids' life, because if I don't have joy and I don't have peace, my kids don't have joy and peace. And they go off, they they go off. And so it's like, okay, I got to make sure I'm a good foundation for them.
That's good. That's good. So, what advice would you give to other parents who are just beginning in their journey?
um you can do this. You can do this. But you can't do it alone. So some of it's going to take you, not some of it, all of it, it's going to take you swallowing your pride. um a lot of times we are very strong-willed, independent people, especially moms. You know, I'm a strong, independent woman. I can do all this by myself, and trust me, I pride myself. I'm pretty self-sufficient. Howsoever, we weren't meant to be alone. We were made for community. So go find your community. And keep in mind, when you're building community, everybody's not going to be everything to you. you know um Again, one of the issues that I have with social media, everybody is on your friends list. Well, everybody's not a friend. Some people are meant to just be coworkers. Some people are meant to just be the barista at your Starbucks. Everybody's not a friend. And so understand, you're going to have some friends that are the ones that you call up when you're really having a hard day. And those are the ones that are going to pray for you. All of your friends can't do that. That doesn't make them bad friends. That's just not the role that they play, right? Um, and so build your community, build it in layers, and swallow your pride, and accept and ask for help. Accept it and ask for it.
That is so good. That is so good. So, is there anything else on your heart you want to share?
Um, just that, I pray that if there's anybody that's watching this, I am going to keep my social media up in case you need to reach out to somebody. I don't like social media. Don't like it, but I'm going to keep it up in case you need somebody to reach out to. I have lots of information. And if I don't know, I know who to point you to get the information, you know. And I'm here. You can find me at Dayspring, usually on Wednesdays and Sundays.
So, so when did you realize you were one of the best youth choir directors anywhere? When did you realize that?
I will say that I sat underneath some amazing choir directors. I am second or third generation PK preacher kid. My grandfather was a pastor. My mom is a chaplain. My dad is a pastor. My former father-in-law, he is a pastor. My aunts are elders and missionaries, and I can't escape it. So I've been in church all my life. I wouldn't say that I'm a great choir director. I'm just saying that I was trained. I'm still part of that old class of church kids that know how to do everything from devotion to a funeral. Okay, I can be your usher or I can be your pallbearer. Pick one. I can do whatever you need. And so actually me getting to Dayspring, the only reason why I ended up being up there was one day Sister Jasmine was like, she was running a little bit late. So I was like, well, I'll run through the song with the kids. And she came in, she was like, oh, you got this. And she was like, oh, okay. All right. Because again, that was one of those times, it's an ongoing growth. I did not trust, I didn't know Sister Jasmine. So I was like, who am I leaving my children with?
Mm-hmm.
Who
Mm-hmm.
who is this woman? I hadn't
Mm-hmm.
met her yet. So I said, well, I'm gonna sit back here and just sit and watch and see who this is. Okay. And other kids started showing up. And because I live in Irving and I used to be a substitute teacher for Irving, some of the kids know me as a substitute teacher. And they were like, Miss Kent, Miss Kent. And I was like, oh man.
Well, that is so good. So tell me, are they singing this week?
Oh, absolutely. They got their singing and they're doing a presentation for Black History Month. The baby's gonna be ready.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. So if you want to see her in action, just come on to Dayspring Family Church and check it out. Check it out. It's going to be a great time in the Lord. But I want to thank you. I want to thank you for giving me a peek into your life. I mean, I was so impressed with you. I'm like, oh my goodness, she needs to share her gift with everyone because there is somebody out here that need to see your smiling face and see how calm you are and see how I'm telling you guys when I see her, this is the person that I see. I mean, I haven't seen I don't even remember the time when she said we prayed. I
Yeah,
don't even
you
remember that.
and you haven't you trust me, my family will tell you a whole different story. They will tell you, oh, when she goes. But I'm working on it. It's all about growth.
Okay,
It's
so
all
we're
about
all
growth.
a work in progress. So yeah, God working on all of us. But I just want to say thank you for giving me this time, this interview, and let us take a peek into your life and giving. You've given some valuable information. I'm going to ask everybody that's watching, every single one of you, tag and share. Make sure and share it on your page. There's something that has been said that can help someone else and believe you me, somebody gonna reach out to you. Watch.
I, I hope they do. I truly hope you do because that's the only reason why I'm keeping Facebook going.
Okay,
It's
so can you pray for the parents before we get off?
Absolutely. Heavenly Father, we come to you today. I pray for every parent that is on this live or may be part of the rewatch. I pray that you will give them peace where they are worried. I pray that you will help them build their community. And I pray that you will help them to find their roots in you so they can continue to grow and nourish their children because all of our children, special needs or not, are all beautifully and wonderfully made. And in Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. Well, okay, y'all. This has been Touching You Talk Show. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.